Hi there, and welcome to The Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today I'm going to show you how to cook I don't know what yet. And the reason I don't know what I'm cooking is because I just pulled out some basic pantry and fridge staples that I have on hand, and I'm going to whip up something on the fly. This really has become important as we were in the middle of the pandemic and ingredients were really hard to find in the grocery store. And I heard from a lot of people, I just don't know what to make. I have this, this, and this. What do I make? And it reminded me of the times when I lived in Maryland, and a lot of times I didn't want to go out to the grocery store, or if I was at my assisted living, I could not go out to the grocery store because I could not leave them. And I would just say, well, what do I want to eat? And then I would make the ingredients work for what I wanted to eat that day. And so I thought that I could show you some little tips, tricks, and give you some ideas for how to incorporate that into your life so that when you want to make something specific, but you don't have the ingredients, you can still make it. So the first thing we're going to have to do is figure out, what am I going to make? So Jeff, close your eyes. And I know for sure he did not study these ingredients because number one, he's a guy. Number two, he doesn't cook. And number three, he doesn't care. So Jeff, what do you want to eat tonight?
Well, you know I'm going to say Mexican, but I'm going to go Italian.
All right, so he wants to eat Italian. It's going to make it kind of easy because I've got ground beef, but I'm going to talk about how you could switch that up to be a few other things. So here we're going to go with Italian, and I've got different kinds of pasta, and I've got some fresh vegetables. So this is going to be pretty straightforward, but maybe I'll throw in a little twist here and there just to show you some different things. So let me gather the ingredients that I'm going to use. I'm going to put them in an area here. And then I'm also going to set up the ingredients for maybe, let's say you wanted to eat Asian food or you wanted to eat curry or something like that. I'm going to put those ingredients in another area, and I'm going to talk about how you could make the various different dishes you want out of some ground beef, ground turkey, ground chicken, or whole chicken would work, pretty much any type of meat. So you can really adapt things to what you have on hand, and I'm going to show you how. All right, so I've got my ingredients for my Italian dinner right over here. But real quick, before I get into making that, I just wanted to show you. So let's say you wanted to have Asian food. Now I have a well-stocked pantry. I have a well-stocked fridge, and I have a really well-stocked spice cabinet. So I know that you guys are not gonna have all these ingredients on hand. But if you happen to love curries or love Asian food, you probably do have some of them or different types. So I've got some curry powder, some chili garlic sauce, some coconut milk, some jasmine rice, a carrot, a potato. You could use an onion, but I have that over there in my other pile, and a little pepper. If you have some frozen vegetables, some broccoli, anything like that, you could use it. And you could make a really fast and quick curry, even using the hamburger meat or chicken or turkey or anything that you have, even ham, okay? You could make a curry with ham. You could, certainly. So that would be perfectly easy to do for an Asian style meal. Or you could make it without the rice. Let's say you don't have rice. Make it and put it over some angel hair pasta. So you can get really creative. So instead of looking at what you have and saying, what can I make with this? Say to yourself, what do I want to eat? And then make your ingredients work for you. You could use white rice instead of jasmine rice. That's no problem. You could use a barrio rice instead. I mean, there's so many different ways that you could make the meal that you want with what you have on hand. All right, so if you wanted to go American with it, you could saute your onions and mushrooms and form your patties. You would have to thaw this though first. Form hamburger patties and make a nice creamy type of Salisbury steak with a little bit of evaporated milk and maybe some chicken stock or beef stock if you have it, some cheddar cheese if you wanted to cheese it up. You could use rotini noodles. You could make a hamburger and rice. I mean, there's just so many things you could do. So again, don't think about the ingredients and figure out what you're gonna make. Think about what you want to make and then get your ingredients to work for that dish. And I am always available to help people. So if you have some ingredients and you really want to make a certain dish, but you can't get out of the house to get other ingredients, send me an email, louise@thesaltedpepper.com, and I am happy to help. Now, don't send it to me hours before you need to make it because I don't always check my email that frequently. But if you have a couple days notice, I'll be sure to get back to you. All right, so there's a ton of different things I could go into, but I think you get the idea. So let's go ahead and start making my Italian dish. Now, immediately my mind went to like a spaghetti. I could make an easy spaghetti with those ingredients. And I thought, that's too normal. You know, that's what we would all think of. So I thought, well, what if I don't have pasta? So let's say I have no pasta in the house, but I want something that is Italian and sort of spaghetti-like. What about making a risotto? That is an Italian risotto with ground beef and kind of make it like a spaghetti sauce. I think that would be absolutely delicious. And if you have mozzarella cheese or Parmesan cheese, you could always shred that in. It would be absolutely yummy. But I'm going to take it a step further, and I don't have those things, which I do. But I'm going to say I don't, and I only have cheddar cheese. So let's see what I whip up with these ingredients. I'm going to clean the rest of this stuff up, and we're going to get to cooking. All right, so the first thing I want to do is start to get my ground beef thawed. Now, of course, if you have time, you can put this in a cold water or let it thaw in the fridge, however you want to do it. But I am running short on time, and I'm going to pressure cook to thaw this. So I'm going to take it out of my freezer bag. This is not ideally how I would do it. I do like to saute. I don't like to pressure cook to thaw meat, but these are different times and we are gonna do what we need to do. So I'm gonna dump that out and then I wanna add in some liquid. Now, since I plan on leaving the liquid in and sauteing in that liquid, I'm gonna go ahead and use my chicken stock. But you could also use water if you really didn't have a lot of chicken stock. You could use water and then just drain it, that's fine. But I'm gonna go ahead and just leave it in there. That is 80-20. Now I will drain it if there's too much fat though, and so use your judgment on that. And that's about 1.5 pounds. But I'm in conservation mode too, so I'm only gonna use a half of a cup, maybe 2/3. Let's do 2/3 of a cup of my chicken stock to come under pressure. If you're using the 8-quart Ninja Foodi, you do want to go up to at least 3/4, maybe 1 cup, because it's gonna evaporate more as it comes to pressure because it's higher. So you do need a little bit more liquid in the 8-quart than you do in the 6.5-quart. So 2/3 cup going in, pressure lid going on, valve to seal. There's a couple ways you could thaw this in there. You don't have to pressure cook. You don't have to dump it in the bottom. You could put it on the rack. You could steam it. I mean, there's various ways to thaw the meat, but I'm gonna do it the quickest way that I have found, and that is to go under pressure. High is what we want, and the time we are gonna take it down to just 2 minutes and hit start. So while that's doing its thing, I'm gonna go ahead and prep my vegetables for my Italian meal. And I'll tell you what I'm making in just a little bit. You might be able to figure it out though. All right, so something interesting just happened and it kind of shocked me a little bit as I'm getting all my garlic cloves peeled, is the red pin is up. Yours could be silver, but either way. And I'm in the middle of pressure cooking, so we've only gone 30 seconds, and steam started shooting out, and it kind of started wiggling. The valve is weighted, so what happened is too much pressure built, and it's a safety mechanism for it to release some of that steam out and regulate the pressure inside. So don't worry if that happens during the middle of pressure cooking. It's very rare that it does, but sometimes it will happen. And now we're gonna finish the rest of the time, which is just about 50 seconds, and then I will go ahead and do an immediate release. And I know, I've got ground beef in there. You can't do that. Yes, you can, because it's not even going to be cooked. It's still going to be raw. It's even going to be probably a little frozen in the middle. And we're going to do the sear saute to get that finished cooking. All right, let's go ahead and flip that. All right, so I still have some more garlic prep to do, but to keep this all moving right along like you would do at home, we're gonna go ahead and open that lid. All right. All right, so let's see. Yeah, this is still frozen, but it's okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put on the sear saute, and we're gonna finish this up. Now you could definitely get rid of this if you didn't want it in the bottom, but you know, it's gonna add tons of flavor, and we are gonna cook it all the way through. So it's just like if you would saute your rice in butter or something like that, but it's totally up to you. You could dump it, start with fresh, no problem, but I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna go ahead and put my sear saute on high and start to get this cooked up with some onions. I probably could have gone 3 minutes for this, honestly. Well, no, it's breaking apart pretty good. I'm going to go get my mix and chop here in just a second, because that's going to do a much better job of getting it into the size pieces that I want. And just that center is still a little frozen, and that's usual, but you don't want to go much longer than that, because if you go much longer, you're going to end up really drying out the meat, and it just kind of gets a little rubbery. It's not that great. So I really recommend, if you're going to thaw under pressure, do it for a short time, and then make sure you saute it all the way, because you do want it cooked through. You want to make sure that the liquid gets heated up to at least 165 degrees, which we will be doing. We'll also be going under pressure, so you know that's gonna kill any bacteria too. So you don't have to worry about safety. We will be plenty safe with this dish. All right, so let's talk about the vegetables that I prepared. And I have like 2 bowls of the same vegetables, but they're cut differently. And there's a reason for that. So I'm gonna build some texture into this by cutting the vegetables in different sizes. So this is a smaller dice. It's about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch dice. And it's half of the dahlia onion and a couple of those little peppers. You know, if you had 1 onion or you had a 1/2 of an onion, use a 1/4 and a 1/4. I mean, you know, this is one of those meals that if you don't have an onion, don't put it in. If you wanted to use a red onion, you could put that in instead. So anything goes here. That's the kind of meal it is. If you didn't have any of these ingredients, you know, you didn't have any vegetables like this, don't use them. Don't worry about it. It's going to be just fine. Now, these are larger and in rings. I'm going to add those in a little bit later, because I do not want them to get too soft. The mushrooms, you know what? I'm going to add those in a little bit too. I'm not going to add them in right now. And I do want to get in some minced garlic. So I've got about 4 cloves of garlic that I just smashed. I'm going to put those in after I put in the arborio rice. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and use my garlic mincer, and I'm going to mince right into here. This is a smaller, it's minced, obviously, not smashed. So the more surface area, the more pungent the garlic is. So that's why I do it this way. You wouldn't want to add minced garlic towards the end of your meal unless you really want that raw garlic flavor, because it's a little overpowering. So when I mince garlic, I usually saute it. I sure hope this dish works out. And we don't even know what it is yet. Well, I do. Well, I know what I'm supposed to make. So I guess I'm going to have to fess up here soon so that you can actually tell me if I made it or not. It's going to be a variation of it for sure. It's not going to be traditional at all. But I think it's going to be delicious. Get all that good garlic flavor. So that was about 3 to 4 cloves. If you don't have garlic, you don't need to use it. If you have garlic in a can, you can use that. We are improvising here, so anything goes. All right, we also need to get some salt and pepper. Now, most people have salt and pepper on hand. If for some reason you did not have salt and pepper on hand, what would we do? Well, you could use any other kind of pepper. So you could put little hot pepper flakes if you have them. Look around, see if you have any pizza seasoning packets. Use that instead of salt and pepper. So get creative. If you don't have salt and pepper at home, but you order takeout a lot and you've got some little packets, just rummage through them. Worst case scenario, add in a little bit of soy sauce. That'll get that salt in there for you. But I happen to have salt and pepper, so I'm gonna add that in now. All right, so I've got some pepper, and I'm trying to think. I'm only gonna use about 1/4 teaspoon, just a little bit. You can always add more later, but it's really hard to take it out. In fact, it's impossible to take it out, but you can dilute it if you over salt and pepper. There's the ways to fix that, but the goal is to get it right or add more at the end. So 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper is what we will start with. And I'm just gonna get this chopped up here and finish sauteing. Then we're gonna get our rice in. And we're gonna make our risotto. All right, that should be good. So let me finish breaking this up. Oh, it smells good. All right, that looks great. I'm really glad that I left in that juice and the fat from the burger meat. That's gonna add a richness to this dish. Not necessary, but I'm glad I did, because it looks really good right now. All right, so I'm gonna turn this off just so we don't boil out too much the liquid. You wouldn't need to because you would just keep moving on. But I just wanted to talk about some different options that you could do. I'm gonna use a barrio rice, which is traditional in a risotto, but if you wanted to use pasta instead, and I would say like a penne pasta, rigatoni pasta, something like that, even elbows, you could certainly add that in instead, and I would decrease the pressure cook time by maybe 2 minutes. So we're gonna pressure cook this for 5 minutes with a 2-minute natural release, but you would wanna go about 3 minutes, maybe 4. You can even look up a recipes on the internet or on my website for the type of noodle that you're gonna use. So if you know that a certain dish is always made with penne pasta, like chicken and penne, search that and get your times and your liquid amounts, and that will help you when you're trying to invent your own dish like we're doing here. All right, so that is perfect. Now I'm gonna go ahead and throw in my mushrooms. They're gonna add flavor and they do really well under pressure, so I'm not worried about that. I'm gonna even go ahead and throw in my larger vegetables. They're gonna do fine in that 5 minutes of pressure cook time. Then let's talk about our liquids. Or let's talk about our rice first. So I'm gonna use 1 cup. I think that's just gonna be a good amount. You could use less, you could use more, but I think 1 cup will be good. This is gonna probably feed, I don't know, 4 to 6 people easily. 4 really hungry people. All right, so before I add this in, just so that you can get a better look in here, what you do when you have something that you're about to pressure cook and you're like winging it, like we're doing here, look and see how much liquid is left in the bottom here. And take into account what kind of vegetables are in there and what they're gonna absorb. And I'll be honest with you, I think this is probably about maybe 1/4 cup of liquid is left. So not a whole lot. So I'm not gonna adjust my liquid down too much. But I wanna add in some fire roasted tomatoes, and they're gonna have some liquid too. So let me add those in real quick. Look at the liquid amount, because well, I know, I don't know if you know, but I know that I need 2 cups of liquid to every cup of a barrio rice. So I wanna make sure I get as close to that as I can during the pressure cook time. All right, in goes the can of fire roasted tomatoes, or diced tomatoes would be fine, no worries, no worries. That really did not increase at all. So if your tomatoes are more liquidy, they might increase the liquid to 1/2 cup, but I'm still thinking that we probably have between 1/4 and 1/3 of a cup of liquid. Now I'm gonna get in my barrio rice here. All right, so the barrio rice is in. I'm gonna go ahead and mix this around. It's looking really, really good. Oh my goodness, I'm excited for this. All right, so now I'm gonna put in 1.5 or 1 3/4. This is when I really try to like do educated guessing here. I'm gonna do 1.5, and the reason why is because at the end I want to be able to either add heavy cream, which I think I'll go ahead and add heavy cream instead of the evaporated milk, just so I don't open this up for no reason because I happen to have heavy cream. But you could use either one; it would be fine. I mean, they're not the same thing or anything, but they will give that little bit of creaminess at the end that you want when you're making pasta alla vodka. I don't have pasta in there. I don't have vodka in there, but I'm still making something that's going to resemble that. All right, so 1.5 cups going in, looking good. I didn't mention earlier, but I did scrape the bottom. You want to make sure you do that if you're thawing or sauteing anything on the bottom of the pot. Make sure you scrape it off. I use my mix and chop to do that. Or you can get the water notice just from whatever stuck on. So make sure you do that. And now we are going to go under pressure for 5 minutes. Now I'm not adding in my cream or anything like that at this point because the cream would split under the high temperatures of pressure cooking. So you don't want to add any cheese or cream or anything like that in right now. And we're going to go to 5 minutes. And let that come up to pressure. Oops! Garlic. That's my smashed garlic, about 4 cloves of it. That is going to give a milder flavor, a sweeter flavor, but it's going to give a lot of flavor. Yummy, yummy. All right, now we just wait. All right, so while our pot's coming up to pressure, we need to make some sort of a salad to go along with our pasta alla vodka. And I don't have any lettuce, I don't have any spinach. Well, actually I do, but for this, I don't. And so I wanted to use just some ingredients that I had on hand. So I'm going to use a slice of onion. Red is my preference for something that's going to be, almost raw, but a sweet onion would work too. Even a yellow onion, it would work. All right, so I'm just going to take that paper off. And now I've got a little bit of roasted garlic. If you didn't have roasted garlic, don't worry about it. Put a little bit of minced garlic in a tiny bit of butter. Not a lot of minced garlic, just a little bit of minced garlic in some butter and make a little spread. But this already has olive oil that we roasted it with, so I don't need the butter. But if you had just had minced garlic, then just use that and put a little butter with it just to kind of, cut down on the bitterness some. Now what I'm going to do with this is add just a tiny bit of salt. Just to my cutting board right here. Just a little bit of pepper, not too much, and a touch of basil. All of these ingredients are optional based on what you have. And then I'm just going to work this into a paste right here on my cutting board. Wonderful. Slather that on the onion. I am totally winging this. I have never, ever in my life done this before. So it could be horrible, but I'm going to let you know because I'm always honest. Even if it's food I'm making, if it's not good, I will be the first to tell you. All right, I'm going to get a pretty decent slice of tomato. I'm going to stick that right there. It looks good. Now, we may not need salt on the tomato, but I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit, just a tiny bit of salt. I always do that on tomatoes. Then, we're going to add, I don't have mozzarella, I don't have Parmesan, I only have this block of cheddar, which isn't really true. I do have Parmesan, I do have mozzarella, but for this, I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this cheese, put that right on, and when my risotto is ready to be just kind of fluffed up and add the cream and add the cheese into it, I'll put the rack in, and we're just going to broil that up for about a minute or two. All right, so just about 20 seconds to go. We went under pressure, high pressure for 5 minutes, and we're doing a 2-minute natural release. So as soon as that gets up to the 2-minute mark, I will vent the remaining pressure, and then we will stir in our other ingredients. Give it a taste for flavor, of course, because you always want to make sure it's salted well, or, if you have, I have some basil here, I could add in some basil if I wanted. So, you tweak it at that point, and then we will get our little salad broiled a little bit. All right, so the pin has dropped. Now we can open up the lid. Always do that away from you because it is steamy, steamy, steamy. And then we can go and see what we've got here. Oh, look at that. That looks amazing. So at first I was concerned that there was too much liquid, but there isn't. That is going to be perfect. Oh my goodness gracious. So while we were waiting for the pressure cook to be done, my husband looked on the internet to see if these ingredients were used in a dish. And of course, ingredients, nothing's original. Everything's been done before, that I've found anyway. But so anyway, he told me that I'm making an Italian beef and rice casserole right now. And I said, no, I am making pasta alla vodka because that's what I want to eat. So we're going to call it pasta alla vodka, not for the recipe's sake though, because this is so not traditional, but it's going to taste like it. So this is 3 to 4 ounces of cheddar cheese because that's what I have. It's probably about 3 ounces. Now, if you had provolone, you could use provolone. I kind of like the way that the cheddar cheese flavors these kind of dishes, though. So it would actually probably be my first choice. Or Parmesan or Asiago. And then a little bit of cream. Now, we're winging it, right? So I don't really measure, but I would say that start out with about 1/4 cup. You don't want too much, but you don't want too little because you do want to get this nice creaminess to it. And there we go. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that this worked. It looks simply divine. Wow. All right, let's give it a taste for seasonings. Oh, and you know what else we need to add in? I forgot about this, red pepper flakes. Probably should have added these in before I pressure cooked, but I'm not gonna worry about it. Just probably about 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon if you like them, if you have them. If you don't have them, of course, we're not using anything we don't have, right? All right, this is absolutely gorgeous. So much better than I thought it was gonna turn out, so I'm really excited. And let's just taste for seasonings. That's really good. I don't think if it needs a little salt. No, I don't think so. It might need a tad, but you know what? I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll salt after the fact. Let's get this broiled up. Stick it right in there. And just hit the broil function and hit start. It's not going to take 10 minutes. I would say it would take probably about 3 minutes. We're not preheating, so we've got to take that into account. So maybe even 5. All right, so let's take a little peek. It's been almost, 5 minutes? That looks good. We could go probably another couple minutes, but I don't think we need to. You could get it brown. Of course, this was a kind of a thick piece of cheddar cheese, so if you had a different kind of cheese, it would melt a little differently. But I think we're good. All right, so there is that. Now let's mix this around. This just looks so incredible. Oh my gosh. So let me get a little bit here on my plate. Wow. Make sure I've got a mushroom. And then let me get my little salad, which is so totally different from anything I've ever made, so it'll be very interesting. All right. I thought it needed a tiny bit of salt, but not that much. You could actually shred more cheese on it. And the other thing you could do is you could do a breadcrumb mixture on there before you broiled your salad, if you were gonna make it like that. You could put a little breadcrumb mixture on top and broil that up. That would be delicious as well. I'm just gonna put a tiny bit of salt on that and a little bit more heat. just because that's how I like it. And if I was really going to be indulgent, I'd probably put like one little bit of butter on there. Let me do that. All right, we're really going over the top here. The reason why I'm doing that is because it's going to add a little extra richness and make it taste just a little bit more like pasta alla vodka. So I'm just going to melt that in. So while that's cooling off a little bit and melting that butter in there, of course that's totally optional, let's cut into our salad. Move that out of the way. Okay, good. Perfect. I did not want this to be cooked, but I did want the cheese to be a little bit melted, and it actually looks perfect. Now, if you're not an onion lover, this might not be for you. Skip the onion. But I happen to like onions, especially when they're red ones. Wow. That's absolutely delicious. But I would think it would be so much better with Parmesan or mozzarella or a combination of both, or provolone. The cheddar just doesn't really do it. But, wow, I can't wait for Jeff to taste that. All right, so here we go. Let's see, by changing almost every single ingredient, let's see if I got a flavor that's kind of close to a pasta alla vodka. The texture is different because we're using the arborio rice instead of pasta, so that's a little different. But would it meet the need if I wanted to eat pasta alla vodka and I didn't have any of those ingredients and I had these? Yeah, it would. But I would leave the mushrooms out, I think. I like the mushrooms in there, but I think I would leave them out to be a little more traditional. That's funny, considering that I just made something that isn't even close to the original recipe, but the flavors are there. Yeah, so this would work for me at home. Would I write this up as a recipe and call it pasta alla vodka? Never, never, never. But that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about making food from what you have at home, but not necessarily doing the recipe based on your ingredients. Figure out what you want to cook and then make your ingredients work for you and make a delicious meal that you love.